Welcome to my pre-year-end list. Year-end list? Yeah, these are basically part of the year-end list, just nothing that I had originally scheduled, but I wanted to make these videos for the year-end list because I feel like they're necessary in some way. And with this first video, we're going to take a look at 5 disappointing albums, at least in my eyes, that came out this year. Now, just because they're disappointing doesn't mean I dislike them. It's just maybe I was expecting a little more than we got, and it left the album just being okay when I know the artist or band behind it could do better. And there are a couple of albums on here that will be on the worst of list, so spoiler alert there. I mean, I'm not going to tell you which ones they are. You'll have to figure them out yourself. But you know, these albums were ones that I was excited for and in the end got let down in some way. So these are no particular order. Here's my first choice. Stone Temple Pilots, man, they should not be that boring. I mean, I have nothing against Jeff Gutt. I think he's doing a fine job replacing Scott Weiland as the lead singer. My main complaint the last album was he was trying to copy Scott so much that it just didn't bring change to the band. And this is more an album just full of ballads in a way, very acoustic-y, and not that there's a problem with that either. Stone Temple Pilots have done great ballads and acoustic tracks before, just not in full album form. And for the most part throughout this whole album, I'm left just bored out of my mind, wanting something else to happen than for just the whole album to be super mellow and put me to sleep. I mean, when STP's doing that, you know they failed when they can do a whole lot better than what we've gotten before. Number 2, Joyner Lucas's debut album, ADHD. It's, I mean, I had first heard him on Eminem's Kamikaze on the song Lucky You, and I said, wow, this guy's actually pretty decent. I wonder what a full-length album from him will be like. Well, we got that this year, and even though I gave it a positive review at first, ever since listening to it again, I've realized that, yeah, we did not get the album from Joyner that we deserved, and some of his flow and his lyrics just fell short of what we know he's been able to do. Sometimes it was the beat of the song. It just was a mess all around, and although it had its high moments, it was mainly just down for the most part, and even the, big moments on there couldn't save the album from just being disappointing. I've been a fan of this artist since her inception in 2008 when Just Dance came out. Poker Face, obviously. I mean, The Fame is one of my favorite pop albums of my lifetime. We have Lady Gaga with Chromatica, the 2020 album, her comeback album. It's technically her first since Joanne, but her first with any material since the Star is Born soundtrack when she was, starring that movie. This was, I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say boring, but all these songs mashed together. You never really know what song you're listening to because she uses that same type of little synth throughout most of the songs, and it still has hits like Stupid Love and Rain on Me. I love those songs, but the other songs on here, it's just like, maybe you could have planned something else. I mean, it could have just been 2 singles this year, and then next year you release something better in this case, but it just didn't seem as inspiring as Gaga's past albums, her, 3 or 4 past albums before this. It was just, underwhelming so much that I think at the end of the day, the next album she releases, that might be it for her. Second to last is Creeper with Sex, Death, and Infinite Void, their sophomore effort. I really loved their debut album, Eternity in Your Arms, in 2017, and I had been waiting, just like many other people, from when they were going to follow this up, as Eternity in Your Arms is like this gothic punk classic, and then Sex, Death, and Infinite Void came out, and the punk is basically gone. And again, that's not what really bothered me, but I kind of felt like they were going to get into somewhat of a sophomore slump here. It's not horrible. I gave this thing a 6 upon first reviewing it, and it's still staying there. But the fact that their first album was so great and memorable, and then we go to this, it's like, what happened here. Like, I hope they're not slowly turning into one of those bands that had like a great debut album and then all of a sudden is starting to experiment a little bit more than they should, and they turn like fully pop at some point. Like, that's just the direction I just see them going right now, and it's kind of disappointing to think that. But although this record was okay and nice, it was definitely not what I was expecting. And lastly, another one that I gave a passing grade of a 6 out of 10, we have Marilyn Manson, We Are Chaos. I mean, it definitely is a big step up from Heaven Upside Down, in my opinion, I will say that much. But again, Marilyn Manson left me wanting more. I don't care that he's not doing the metal anymore. Again, changes like that don't bother me. But what he's doing now just doesn't seem as interesting or as artistic as what he used to be doing. And at this point, I think you kind of realize maybe Marilyn Manson's image back in the day was what was carrying him, because there are bands and artists that have the image that, you know, carry them, but they also make songs that people remember, and Marilyn Manson, that's what it was back in the day. Now, that image is basically gone, and the music has just become more mediocre than usual, and like STP with Marilyn Manson, mediocrity and boring isn't what you would associate with this artist. So I was expecting a lot more, even though I did, like I said, rank it higher than his previous album. But I don't know. I guess I've just grown out of what Marilyn Manson has become. I don't know. So that was it for 5 albums in 2020 that really disappointed me. You can tell me in the comments below, what are some albums that disappointed you? These don't necessarily have to be your least favorite albums, like you could still like them, but maybe it was just one of those albums where it was good, but you were expecting more from them, or maybe it was terrible to the point where you're like, I know this artist or band can do better, and yet they brought us this. So it'd be interesting to see what your choices will be in the comments below. But until then, obviously, next week we're going to have the top 10 albums that surprised me this year. These are the ones that won't necessarily make the best list, but they definitely did, you know, attract me surprisingly in some way. And yeah, that's basically it. Stay safe out there, wear your mask, and until then, I will catch you all in the next one.